Welcome to Tales of Resilience, a podcast honoring the heart behind animal rescue. I'm your host, Jolene Feeney, a mental health therapist, lifelong animal lover, and founder of ZodiPaws and Animal Rescue Hub. This is a space for real conversations with the people who care for animals when no one else can. From shelter teams and wildlife rehabbers to transporters, vet techs, and nonprofit leaders. We talk about the joy, the grief, the burnout, and the moments that remind us why we keep showing up. Whether you've lived this work or just want to understand it more deeply, thank you for listening. Let's get into today's story. Hey everyone. So we're going to actually cover a lot in this episode. We're going to talk about burnout, trauma, and resilience. These are big, layered topics, so think of this as a starting point, a conversation to return to when you need it, and definitely not something to master all at once. So because this is such a big topic, we're going to break this down into segments. So where I want to start is with what is burnout? You know that feeling when you're running on empty, but the world still expects you to drive like the tank is full? That is where burnout lives. Burnout isn't just being tired. It's not solved with a good night's sleep or a long weekend. It's a deep, persistent depletion, emotionally, physically, and mentally. And it's especially common in people who give a lot: helpers, healers, animal caregivers, therapists, nurses, shelter staff, people like you. Psychologists describe burnout with three main components. One, emotional exhaustion. You feel tapped out, like there's nothing left to give. Two, depersonalization or cynicism. You start to detach, maybe even go numb. The passion that once lit you up now just flickers. And three, a reduced sense of personal accomplishment. Even when you're doing your best, it doesn't feel like it's enough. Maybe this sounds familiar. Burnout creeps in when you keep showing up for the world without anyone or anything showing up for you. And the tricky part is that burnout is sneaky. It often looks like being strong, like being committed, like just doing what has to be done. But underneath that, there's often silence, sadness, resentment, or grief. You might start skipping meals or sleep, snap at people you care about, feel numb during moments that should move you, wonder if you're the only one who feels this way. And unfortunately, you're not. Burnout is not a personal failure. It's a systemic and emotional response to prolonged stress without enough support, rest, or recognition. Especially in professions that deal with trauma, loss, and love all wrapped into one, burnout isn't just common, it's almost inevitable if we're not careful. So if you're listening and you feel like you've been pushing through, like you're surviving more than living, this segment is for you. This whole episode is for you. And it's not here to tell you just take better care of yourself. It's here to help you understand what's really going on beneath the surface and how to slowly come back to yourself. In the next segment, we'll explore how trauma we witness or experience actually plays a powerful role in burnout, and why recognizing that is part of the healing. So let's take a deep breath if you can. Let go. You're doing more than enough. When we think of trauma, we often picture one big catastrophic event: a car accident, a natural disaster, a violent incident. What many people don't realize is that trauma also happens in quiet, persistent ways, especially in caregiving work. It's not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's the repeated exposure to heartbreak, to suffering you can't stop, to impossible choices you have to make again and again. For those in the animal care world, it might look like being there when an animal is surrendered because a family can't afford care, holding a pet's paw during euthanasia after doing everything possible, seeing signs of abuse or neglect, and not being able to intervene the way you wish you could. These are traumatic experiences, even if they don't look like trauma from the outside. What happens over time is something we call secondary trauma, or sometimes vicarious trauma. It's what happens when you carry the emotional weight of the trauma you witness, especially when you're an empath, a feeler, a fixer. Your nervous system doesn't always know the difference between what's happening to you and what's happening around you. So even if you're just doing your job, your body absorbs the tension, the grief, the helplessness. And then there's moral injury, which I think is such an important concept. This is when the values you hold, like compassion, dignity, or doing no harm, get violated by the reality of your work. Maybe you want to save them all, but your clinic is under-resourced. Maybe you know what an animal needs, but policies or funding limit your options. Maybe you're stretched so thin that you miss something and it haunts you. These are invisible wounds, but they cut deep. Burnout and trauma are deeply intertwined. If you're dealing with both, if you're exhausted, numb, and also experiencing flashbacks, anxiety, irritability, or even a sense of detachment, you're not broken. You're carrying too much. And no one gave you a safe place to set it down. What's more, trauma can mess with our internal compass. It can make us question our worth, our ability, even our purpose. It turns up the volume on shame and self-doubt just when we need care the most. But naming it, calling it trauma, can be a first step back toward healing. So if you ever said, I should be able to handle this, why does this affect me more than it used to? Or I feel like I'm shutting down, know this, you are not weak. You're having a very human response to very heavy things. In the next segment, we're going to shift gears a little and talk about what resilience really looks like. Spoiler alert, it's not about being tough or positive all the time. It's about being real and reclaiming what supports your nervous system and your spirit. Let's take a deep breath, maybe even place a hand on your heart if that feels okay, and remind yourself you're not alone in this. So now that we've talked about burnout and trauma, let's talk about resilience, but not in the way that's often sold to us. Because if you've ever been told to just be more resilient while drowning in exhaustion and heartbreak, I want to pause and say, that's not what real resilience is. It's not a personality trait, it's not grit, and it's definitely not pushing through when you're already past your limit. Resilience is your capacity to recover, not your ability to tolerate more suffering. It's your ability to bend without breaking, and when you do break, it's your ability to slowly rebuild, softer and stronger. And most importantly, resilience is not something we do alone. Resilience is relational. It's co-regulation. It's someone saying, you don't have to carry this by yourself. It's a moment of breath, a dog resting their head on your lap, a friend who doesn't need you to be fine. It's a pause in a world that keeps asking for more. So there are 4 core pillars of resilience I'd like to share. One is regulation. This is your nervous system's ability to settle. When you're in fight, flight, or freeze mode too often, your body can't heal. Micro practices like deep breathing, grounding exercises, and even stepping outside and feeling the sun on your face, these are resilience in action. It's not dramatic, it's just a gentle interruption of the stress spiral. 2, reflection. Resilience also grows through naming what's happening. I'm burned out. I'm feeling helpless. I need rest. When we name the experience, we can start to choose how we respond to it. 3, relationship. Whether it's a trusted coworker, a therapist, your partner, or even your dog, connection matters. Being witnessed in your struggle without judgment is one of the most healing things a nervous system can experience. 4. Rest and repair. This one is tricky in caregiving fields. We're not often given space to pause, but without actual recovery, the cycle repeats. Rest doesn't have to mean 2 weeks in Bali. It can be leaving work on time, or taking a real lunch break, or saying no to one more commitment. And listen, you don't need to be fully healed to be resilient. Resilience is in the moment you say, "This hurts, and I'm still here." It's choosing to walk instead of another hour of doom scrolling. It's crying and still feeding your foster pups. It's asking for help even when your voice shakes. I want to say this clearly, that you already have resilience. If you're here, if you're listening, if you're showing up despite everything, you are already practicing it. In the next segment, we'll talk about what it means to heal forward. We'll offer some tangible steps and gentle practices to help you reconnect with yourself without pressure, without shame. Because recovery isn't about becoming someone new, it's about remembering who you are when you're supported, rested, and held. So let's walk that next part together. So here we are, burnout, trauma, and now the question we're all left with: how do I come back from this? How do I heal forward when the world doesn't stop asking for more? I want to be clear, healing is not linear. It's not a checklist. It's not about fixing yourself. Healing is about tending to the pieces of you that have been ignored, overworked, or overwhelmed. And it begins in small, intentional moments. So let's talk about a few ways to gently begin again. 1, we can start with the nervous system. Your nervous system is not just reacting to the world, it's trying to protect you. When we're burned out or carrying trauma, it often gets stuck in overdrive. Here are some of the micro practices that help. Put your bare feet on the earth for 2 minutes. Really let your feet touch the grass, touch the ground. Connect with that moment. Breathe in 4 counts. We call it 4 square breathing. 4 breaths in, hold for 4 breaths, 4 breaths out, hold for 4 breaths, and repeat that a few cycles. Slower breath slows our heart rate, which reminds our brain that we're okay. And look around the room and name 5 things you can see. This helps orient you to the present and connects you with the moment. These may seem small, but they interrupt the stress loop. They tell your body, you're safe now. 2, we restore connection. Burnout thrives in isolation. Trauma convinces us we are alone. So reconnect gently, not with everyone, just with safe people or safe spaces. Message a coworker and say, "Hey, do you ever feel like this work is just too much?" Join a support group or start one. Let a friend witness your tears without needing to explain them away. Healing is relational. You don't need to carry it all on your own anymore. 3, redefine boundaries. Boundaries are crucial to our healing. Boundaries are not walls, they are acts of care. They protect your energy so you can keep showing up in ways that matter. Try starting with just one, such as, I'm no longer checking work emails after 6 p.m. I can't volunteer this weekend, but I'd love to help next month. And just reminding yourself that no is a complete sentence. Your worth isn't measured by how much you give. It's honored by how well you protect what's sacred in you. 4, let rest be revolutionary. You do not have to earn rest by burning out first. Take a nap without guilt. Watch something silly just because it makes you laugh. Sit in the sun and do absolutely nothing. Rest is not a luxury, it's a requirement for healing. 5. Give your pain a place to go. Sometimes healing means giving your feelings form. Try journaling your experience, even if it's just one sentence a day. We often think journaling needs to be pages and profound, but really we're just working on putting it down and giving it validity. Create art. It doesn't need to be pretty, it just needs to be true. And you could try writing a letter to yourself from a future version of you, the one who's rested, clear-eyed, and whole. Let your pain move, let it speak, and let it soften. And above all, go slow. Healing is not a race. If you're waking up every day with a heavy heart, but you are kind and compassionate to yourself and you keep showing up, you are healing. If you've set one small boundary, you are healing. If you've cried and let someone hold space for you, you are healing. So ask yourself gently, what's one way I can tend to myself today? What part of me is asking for care? You don't need to do it all. Just start with one small, kind choice. In a moment, I'll close out with a few final reflections, but for now, maybe place a hand on your heart if it feels okay. And remind yourself, you are not a machine. You are a deeply feeling, deeply human being, and you deserve to heal forward. You've made it to the end of the episode, and maybe, in some way, to the beginning of something new. If this conversation stirred something in you, a memory, a truth, a tired ache you've been pushing down, I want you to know that's not weakness. That's awareness, and awareness is the first step toward healing. We've talked about burnout, the invisible toll of trauma, and what real resilience looks like. Not the kind you perform, but the kind that gently grows when you're witnessed, when you're rested, and when you are allowed to be fully human. So if you're listening right now with tears in your eyes or a lump in your throat, you are not alone. You are not broken. And you are absolutely worth the care you give to everyone else. Here's your invitation this week. Choose one small way to honor yourself. Maybe it's 5 minutes of silence. Maybe it's texting a friend or saying no without apology. Maybe it's placing your hand over your heart and whispering, I'm doing my best. Whatever it is, let it be enough. If today's episode spoke to you, share it with someone else who might need to hear it. And take what you need from today's episode. Leave the rest. You're already on a path, and I'm so glad to walk it with you. Thanks for joining us on Tales of Resilience. If today's story moved you, reminded you of your own path, or gave you something to think about, please consider sharing this episode with someone else who cares. You can follow us on Instagram at ZodiPaws and animal.rescuehub to stay connected, or visit ZodiPaws.com or animalrescuehub.org to learn more about both of these organizations. And you can also email us directly at info@animalrescuehub.org. And if you or someone you know has a story worth sharing, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, be kind to yourself and never underestimate the power of a tale and a little resilience.